So, hello everyone. Welcome to the BEwell Hub series. I'm your host. I'm Gary Marcus Judge, and today I will be joined by Joy Fashagba. I hope I said that right. Is going to be my co-host, a guest speaker. We'll be speaking about actually building your own personal brand, maybe writing your book. And a very interesting point was made by Joy when we were actually setting this up was before you write your book, it's probably a good idea to actually have someone who wants to read your book. And so they need to know who you are. And so if you write a book, people might not even read it because they don't know who you are. So it's actually building yourself up a little bit, building your personal brand before you go into the book writing, which I didn't do, by the way. So there you are. I wrote my book. I had a ghostwriter who helped me. And it was during COVID, and I wrote this book, this autobiography of mine called Free to Fly. And but I didn't have any followers. I didn't build my personal branding, even though I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years. The book came out and probably no one's read it. I don't know, but so today we've got Joy, who's a ghostwriter, but she's also a personal brand developer. And so Joy, you can probably give us some thoughts on ghostwriting, writing, why we should write, if we should write, because a lot of the questions come along. Do I have anything interesting to say? Does anyone really want to listen to me? Who is the book aimed at? Is it a book that's just going to be a PDF and then you keep it to yourself? Or is it something that you're going to actually publish and get it out there in Amazon and try selling it? Why not? Monetizing the book? Or, all those kind of questions. Perhaps we can just maybe have a brainstorming around that kind of topic. So there you are. Joy, take it away. Joy, I can't hear you. Joy.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Okay, great. Go for it.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for having me, first of all. I just wanted to start off with this analogy of a concert, where musicians actually come to sing. Just imagine them organizing a concert without having fans, without having anyone hear their music for the first time, and you just come and put out a banner or a flyer, I want to start a concert. A lot of people will be wondering, what does he do? What kind of songs does he play? Why am I interested? A lot of questions will come around, and some people might take the extra step of searching your name to see if you have something they can look at and say, okay, maybe I'm interested. And most times you check and there's nothing there. That's a disappointment, because the concert might actually be a very good one, but nobody has anything to look back on and say, oh, there's something interesting about it that would make me register for the concert. That's how I see book writing also as. A lot of people talk about book writing like, oh my God, I want to write a book. I want to leave a mark on this earth before I leave. I want to share my experiences with people. And it's a good thing, but you always have to set the ground for that book. What have you told people before? Maybe in your industry or just a personal life that people can relate to. I think one of the most important things about selling something to people is selling what people need. And if you've created like a ground for people to, people that didn't know you already, that means you've told them what they probably like, they're interested in. You've tried and tested different ways of communicating with them, and you say, oh, maybe it's videos that it's good to like use to communicate with these people. You understand your target audience already. You know them, you know the kind of content to push out to them and all of that. So you guys have created like a relationship where if I'm bringing a book in, okay, yeah, there's this kind of familiarity with it. So yeah, that's just what I think. So before I move further, I would just like to ask everyone, how many of us would love to author a book?
Let's keep the mics open in this case. I think everyone's going on mute. David,
okay, hang on a second. I've got one in process, and I'm an engineering, mathematics, science guy, and I wasn't the literature guy, and so I've done engineering management my whole life. So this was my first attempt at doing a book, and I had it looked over by another author to see if it need be edited or anything like that. one of his comments was, I like the way you have it written because it's not written from a technical standpoint, it's written from a personal standpoint. And so I use my own personal experiences a lot in it. I'm working with a couple of publishers right now. I just had the cover page made. But other than that, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And so, so so here I am. I've had one guy say, well, you ought to publish on Amazon, but I've heard pros and cons about doing that. And the two publishers I'm working with are both formal publishers, and they had to go through all this other stuff and everything to put it all together. And this week I got all the information from one of them about what they need to put the book together. And I didn't know anything about book sizes or anything like that. Originally, I've got vision issues. I'm blind in my left eye.
Okay.
And so when I put it in Microsoft Word, I used an 8.5 by 11 with some large text so I could see it, but it didn't make very many pages. And so the publisher I'm working with right now, he has two sizes he used. The most popular size he uses, I'll have to look it up here. Hang on. I don't see it right now. I think it's a 6-inch by 9-inch as a professional book. And he has a little bit smaller one for one that's just a regular book.
So your book, David, was a technical book, did you say? What was the title? Did you have a title for it or not?
Oh yeah, it's already done. I'm finishing modifying a couple of the org charts in it to fit a 6x9. But other than that, it's already been completed. And the name of the book is The Rise of the Anti-Boss.
The Rise of the Anti-Boss. Okay.
Yeah, it's about servant leadership.
Okay, right. Okay.
And my particular type of servant leadership that I've always used was, are you familiar with servant leadership and what that is? Okay.
Yeah.
The type I use also combine that with using super performers. And super performers are different from what most people think. Super performers are the people who want the opportunity to be able to think for themselves and try to be as strong as they can in whatever work they do. Versus a boss wants to make all the decisions. And so they have
I think the workplace is changing rapidly. I mean, I see it as the people coming in now, that the old style of like my way or the highway is not working anymore. There's there's more collaboration. I think younger people now are looking for their say in matters. I've got a very young team working in my office, and I have to involve them in everything. So let's go back to Joy. So Joy, let's talk a little bit about. Are you going to talk about like straight into the ghostwriting, or are you talking about the personal brand building? What are we going to talk about? Where are you going to start from?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about personal branding. That's what I'm going to talk about. Because everybody wants to write a book, but we don't know what we are meant to do before then. You know, once your book is out now, you're thinking, what next? You're going to post it on your profile, but you don't have a fan base. You don't even have people you've communicated with consistently about this book. You know, most times when you're writing a book, you actually send newsletters to your, followers, and you're telling them, oh, I have something in store for you guys. So it's like you're building interest already, telling them what to expect in the book. So when the book comes out, yeah, human beings can be human beings too, but some people actually waiting for it to get it from you. So personal branding is more like you creating an image for yourself where people actually know you as something. So when you're bringing a book to them or whatever you're offering to them, they already know you as that. Like you said, the anti-boss and servant leadership. Let's take, for instance, you'll be writing content about that servant leadership, what you think about it, your personal views about it, some facts and all of that about it. When you're bringing a book in, people already know you that's what you talk about. So it's just so easy to say, yeah, I believe he's knowledgeable enough to share something, and I'll buy the book. So that's what personal branding does for you. It allows you to build an audience, a community, build authority. So when you're talking about, let's just think about most of these people we look at online, like Charles Myler and all of that, or Stephen Bartlett. If you're trying to think about anybody, about podcasts, really good one, you're going to think about him because he has done that consistently. So before you drop a book, you have to build. And that's the building part that I want everybody to understand, that you don't just throw a book to everybody. So for personal brand, you always have to think about, what do you want to tell your audience? What kind of content do you want to share with them? What do you want them to know you as? Do I want them to know me as a stern person? When I'm talking about this topic, I want them to know I'm very emotional about it, or you just want to deliver it in a calm way. You know, there are different approaches to talk about something. You notice, right? There are people that just come and they just throw it at you and you just have to take it. And there's some people that just throw it in softly and you just find yourself agreeing to it. So you have to find your tone, your style, and the kind of message you want to send to them. And then by sending that, you actually see people that comment or like. Some people actually even reach out to you. I love what you talk about. And that's you already building community. Because for me, I do more of storytelling. Whenever I write, I don't address content writing from like, oh, the 5 steps to write or whatever. I just go from storytelling to make people understand, you know, how it feels to write and how people react to things, you know, how people buy things from you just by reading comments and all of that. So that's it. You have to find that around the style, the topic, your audience. You know, when you know your audience, you know what they like, you know how to talk to them, you know, you just understand them, you know, so you have to do research on that. And once you do that, you keep building, you know, you drop videos today, you maybe drop comments on people you actually want to collaborate with. Before you know it, you're building a community. And so when you're writing a book, you can even co-author it with somebody else. You can talk to other people in your industry about it. Oh, I want to write a book. And someone's telling you, I think you should address it from this viewpoint. So you get more, what's the word, information, more insights on how to write a book that is sellable, that people can buy from you. Not just a book that I think is smart, but something people will actually buy from you. That's what personal branding does for you. Aside writing a very beautiful book, what do people know about you that will make them buy from you? A lot of people are writing books about servant leadership, so why you? And that's what building a personal brand does. So does anyone want to ask something before I go on?
Does the topic of the book matter, Joy? Does the topic, I mean, whether it's servant leadership or whether it's an autobiography, I mean, does that matter as you send the emails to prepare the audience or the customer who's going to buy your book? I mean, does it really matter?
Most times it does. If I know you to be someone that talks about God, and then you're trying to tell me something about sex in a very different, it's contrasting, right? That's why building a personal brand, you want people to know you as something. So when you're bringing something else, that's why we feel shocked when somebody changes. Maybe they bring something different. Like, I didn't see them as this. So you have to be very clear with building a personal brand and what you want people to see you as. So when you're picking a topic, you're also thinking about your target audience. It's not about something that sounds nice, but something that your audience will understand once they look at it.
I mean, I wrote I wrote an autobiography, a little bit of my story, basically. It was that autobiography. It just, but there was no preparation. There was no building an audience or followers. I didn't send any emails before. It was just during COVID. I wrote this book because it was a message that I wanted to give to my 3 children. The person who was helping me at the time we read the book together, and she said it's a shame just to leave the book with the children because there's some interesting stories that people can actually maybe take something away from. So why don't we go and publish it? But we didn't have an audience because we didn't prepare the audience to receive the book. So my question is, if I don't know, David was to write an autobiography now for his autobiography, how would he prepare the followers or the audience or the customers to buy that autobiography? Is that question clear?
Yeah, clear. So I wrote something. I wrote a post here, I think yesterday where I said, the moment you wake up, that's when your day starts. You know, we all don't get it right from the beginning. But then when you decide that you actually want to post this, let's say you just realize today, oh, I think I want to put this out there. Then you prepare the ground from there. We actually just feel like we are late. But the moment you realize you need this, then why can't you just start building your personal brand from there? I have a book I think you guys would love. This is what the book is all about. And then you pick out points from that book that you could use to create posts. So when people read about this, it's giving them an idea of what they should expect inside the book. You're not giving them the whole thing, but then you're addressing, you're like informing them, teaching them about just a bit of that book. Now, when they see that and you tell them, I have a book that talks more about this. Yeah, so you might not get it all. The thing is, we always feel it has to happen immediately, but there's time, you have to build on it. So the more you're telling people, one day someone just looks at your book and is like, oh, who is this guy? And then they search, and then they just see all the posts you've made talking about servant leadership or whatever. Okay, let me give it a try. The most important thing is that when you drop something so grand like a book, or you're saying you want to do a concert, let people be able to look back at something they could say, okay, okay, I think he has a background in this, you know. That's the reason why before you buy something from someone, you're checking for their social media pages or you're typing for their website, just to be sure that they're authentic. That's the same way. So if you decide today, then you just have to build.
You know, I'm taking something away from here, Joy, and I want to thank you, is the preparation that one should have. Prepare, even in marketing, I think, even if you talk about marketing, you're preparing the market space and the audience to receive something, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's the other way around. You have the product, but you haven't prepared the market, and you're going out there and you're just saying, buy the product. And they're saying, well, where did this all come from? So, but it doesn't always work like that. Sometimes you have the product, you have it there, but you haven't prepared the ground. So what you're saying is actually take the product that you have and maybe just share some of the interesting factors of the product or the service with the market, with the audience. I think that's what, have I understood correctly?
Yeah. And most times you're lucky. Some products don't really need you to do so much from like, maybe if you make that mistake of not marketing it to people before you bring it out. The moment it's out and you start talking about it, most times when it's a very good product, the moment someone tastes it and they can just see something online, they're like, okay, you know, there's something to follow up on. There's this biscuits that we'll buy here in Nigeria. I don't know if it's over there. It's called Fabs. And there was no sort of marketing for that. It just happened so that most of the cookies we had here in Nigeria, the prices went up, and that was like a substitute. And someone tried it, posted about it online, and that was it. From there, everybody just started getting it. So sometimes you're lucky. There are a lot of ways to market your product, you know. But now that you have the knowledge, would you decide to wait on luck? Yeah, you really don't want to wait on luck, but it's important to plan. And if you don't, it's still not a problem. You can always start the moment you drop it in the market. That's if you didn't know.
So let me ask you another question. David, go. You got a question?
Yeah. One of the other things I'm trying to do with my book is I have another group of people working on a new website for it.
Okay.
Bossism is dead. BOSSISM. Anyway, one of the things I thought about concerning your comment you just made is having one of the pages on there be basically the intro to the book so that people understand what the book is about. What do you think about that?
That's important. That's important. You can't just put
Sorry, Joy. I didn't understand the question. David, can you repeat the question?
Yes. Right now, it's not open to the public. It's just with me and the people that are creating it. And one of the pages I thought about adding was having the intro to my book, which is, I think, about 3 pages long or something like that. Putting that in there so that people can read what is going to be inside the book. And so hopefully, in my thinking, I may be wrong, and you can answer this, but I'm thinking that if someone sees in that intro things that are interesting to them, they might want to buy the book because of those things that are interesting to them. Is that correct or wrong?
That's right. You should talk about it. That's like a summary before you buy a book. Imagine the book is sealed and you want people to buy it. The only thing they can see is the cover, but they should be able to read something. So if you give that summary, that should help.
Okay,
So you're building, or you've built a website for your book, is that right?
yes, I've had a company in the Philippines actually work on it for me, and I'm testing it now, and I'm going to have even though I don't have one yet, I'm going to have a podcast page. I'm going to have another page that I thought I would put the intro of the book on, just so people could see what it is. And there's some other stuff involved with it too. The front page, when it turned on, is going to be an automated video, and it's got some weird stuff to it. And the title of the book, I mean, the cover page I've already had made, and it's very different from most books.
Well, that's something that I haven't really thought of. Hello, Stephen. Welcome, Stephen. Stephen Busher. We're talking about Joy is our residing expert, ghostwriter, personal brand developer, builder. And so we're talking about this, and just to sort of fill you in, we're talking about actually, rather than just coming out with your book, is to actually prepare the audience. So prime the audience or your potential customer before you go out with the book. So when the book does come out, they know who you are, what the content is, and they actually want the book. So it's like creating that sort of need, let's say. That's what we're talking about. And here, this point was actually David actually having a website to sell the book, which I hadn't thought about. Joy, are you still there? Joy, have you frozen? Joy's frozen. See, what are you doing with your book? Are you working on that book now? Is it already out? Where are you with your book? Stephen, you're on mute. You're still on mute.
There we go.
Okay.
My mouse decided to quit working for a moment there. Sorry about that. I was trying to figure out how to get it to click. So it's a beautiful concept because there's a couple of things that come to mind, and I run into this with different projects I'm working on. It's like sometimes a book will be something so unique that you're educating the world. Like so one of the people that I'm working with, they're bringing a new term into the lexicon of the world, and so there's an education process that goes along with that, because now you have to actually explain a new word and things like that. So there's a bit of work that goes along with that concept. What I'm trying to do is simplify. So I'm trying to take the work off of the reader and then connect into some of this human experience that many of the things that we deal with in life tend to be based around simple concepts. So as far as myself, I kind of paused a little bit there over the last few weeks because we had some different things happen within the family. I've been traveling quite a bit, so I've been gone quite a bit. But now it's time to get back into that, and it's realizing that sometimes the simplest answers, even if it's been told before, right, by a different author or a different concept that's out there, that it's worthwhile to share and to explain the same concept because it's important enough. It'll help people in some area of their life. So for myself, my book, I've got three of them in the works at the moment, and one book is a skill-based book about hypnotherapy. What does it mean? How to use this tool, this modality to help people shift their mindset. And it's based upon a self-awareness journey that I went through that realized that our own beliefs will dictate the quality of our life. And sometimes we have self-limiting beliefs. Sometimes we have, we put up our own internal blocks and will actually resist the development, the growth that they're meant to have. So, hypnotherapy is one way that you can help people access those beliefs that they have and find out whether they want to carry those beliefs or not, whether they're helpful or not. The second book that I have is called Narcissist Proof, and it's the journey of, we will come across difficult people in life. I notice you're smiling, David. It's like, yeah, when you come across a difficult or toxic person, it can devastate those that are kind, that are malleable, that are less structured in their sense of self, their sense of identity. And sometimes it's a little bit of naivety, which is you trust that the world's good, and sometimes there are those in the world that are not good, and they can bowl over those that are too trusting, right? So within this book, it's the concept that when you're in a narcissistic type relationship, that person's always telling you it's your fault. And here I'm coming along with a book to say, well, the qualities you have, the good qualities that you have opened you up to this situation, right? We have to, if we're in that kind of situation, we allowed people to treat us this way. And so it's this development curve of there's nothing wrong with you. And you can't fault yourself for somebody taking your good nature and using it against you. But we can become a little bit more self-reflective and self-focused and realize, okay, what red flags did we ignore? What did we believe about ourselves that allowed people to treat us this way and for us to think it's okay? There's this whole process of evolution that goes along that we can develop people, and so that in the end, they become a little bit more self-aware, and they realize what they want, and they'll find after they go on the self-awareness journey that they can be stronger when they show up in certain situations. And they'll find that there'll be people that will put pressure on them, but they will be so secure in their sense of self that they won't trigger into a fear response. They won't go into just a response mode. And what's strange is that actually is something that a narcissistic type of person views as it'll raise their level of status within that person. That a narcissist, when they see a person that can't be flustered or can't be controlled, they're very envious of that, because it's something that, you know, you're beyond their control and they can't stand it. So that's that. And then the third one is a book called Running Away from God, and it's kind of an exploration of faith, and it's this idea that we all have spiritual experiences. And there's kind of a theme that goes along with that, but it's this idea that we have different perspectives that exist within our life. And one of those perspectives contains a spiritual element. And that's separate from our human experience. Our human experience is afraid of dying, afraid of getting sick, afraid of not being significant. And from a spiritual perspective, we have all these things already. We are significant. And it's something that, you know, Gary talks about being out in nature, and connecting to this sense of power, the sense of being. You know, it's a sense of security. And I think that that's something in alignment with this, with the sense of spirituality, which is, if you're comfortable in your own skin, if you're okay with who you are, you know, if you're connected to this higher sense of purpose, then you're a little bit more tolerant of others, you're a little bit more accepting of others, and really more accepting of yourself as you're moving along in the journey. So that's the three that I have.
Yeah, definitely, Steve. We'll buy all three of them. Do we get a special price if we buy all three? Do we get a bundle, a book bundle? Well, welcome back, Joy. I don't know where you went, but you're back. But we were just asking Steve because Steve is in the midst of writing 3 books, and so he's already gone a little bit ahead of other people. So do you want to come back in again and just tell us a little bit about, I mean, if you're writing a book, I mean, how do you, what does the person sort of focus? Is this something that actually touches you, something that you want to inform other people? Is it your journey? What is it that actually inspires someone to write the book? Yeah,
anything. In fact, anything. I just take it as musicians. Sometimes they sing songs about their personal lives. I don't know if anyone has heard Adele's song, My Little Love, and that was a letter to her little child, I think, when she had an issue with her husband. But all she has been singing about has been love, 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 and then she talked about this. So you are at liberty to talk about anything. And the fact that you talk about servant leadership or faith, you also have your personal experiences. And I believe personal experiences connect us better to people. Because if you tell me this has happened to you before and you're explaining it to me, I feel, finally, it's not me, you know, and I can talk to somebody about it. Even if I can't talk to you personally, but you telling me some things about it, it feels like, okay, I think there's a solution for me. I don't know if anyone has read any book like that, and you're just like, this is someone talking about what we feel here. You know, it kind of connects people with you. And the beautiful thing about it is when you have a personal brand, people just go straight there to connect with you. I've done that a couple of times where I just love what somebody wrote about in their book, and I find them and I just want to hear more about them. And so imagine if they're not posting anything. They're just online, but there's nothing to look out for. It's like, okay, I wish I could connect with you better than this. So that's where personal brand comes in. But yeah,
I like
it's
that.
always important. You can talk from your personal experience, from the skills you have, you know. Yeah, skills that you have with, anything like that, you can talk about it.
So let me understand it correctly. So you read the book, you like the book, you want to know more about the author, so you go and look for the author on social media or websites or whatever, because you want to know more about that person and to see whether it actually aligns with what the person is saying in their book, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we all follow somebody that we love here. You either follow a pastor you love his preaching, you follow an artist that you love his songs. Why do you do that? Because you want to keep tab, you want to be up to date. If he's dropping a new song today, if he's dropping a new song today, if he's writing a book today, if he's celebrating something, you just want to be up to date, If he's having a concert, you would obviously want to be the first to know. So that's why it's very important to have a personal brand, because you won't always be able to send a newsletter to everybody. But when you have a social media account, a platform, people can just log in and just, oh, maybe he has something I can, attend or whatever.
So when you say social media, are you talking about like TikTok, Instagram, all of those things? Or are you just talking about just one or two channels, or what are you talking, what are we talking about?
With social media platforms, right? That's also very tricky, because we think because TikTok is a very beautiful space to be in and like increase visibility, everybody should just be there. Some platforms are not for you, they won't work for you. It's just like a law firm being on TikTok and joining those trends and dancing. They look like jokers, so you always have to pick the one that works for you. And most times, if you're a professional, LinkedIn is one of the best, because it's easier for you to just type in something and you can connect with people personally, reach out to them. Yeah, that's a very beautiful place. LinkedIn is also, Twitter, X is also a good space to build authority, where you just drop your ideas, connect with people that are like-minded, have conversations. So it depends on what you're looking for. Who are you trying to connect with? Are your target audience on TikTok? Would you see a lawyer on TikTok? Would you see your clients there? You have to find that space. You can't just join everyone. Sometimes you can just join just two, and that's giving you all the results you want, all the clients you want, and all of that. So it's very important. That's why doing the research on your target audience is important.
Another question. I'm the first book went out, and okay. So then I said, all right. So what happened? What was the transformation after that book that went out? So I looked deeper, and I said there were a lot of things that happened after the book published. So I said, okay, Gary like transformed or changed or started doing different things, and I said, okay, I want to write a book about that. Okay, this is after like the second book I'm talking about. This is after about what, 2-3 years. Started working, spent some money, got someone to help me. We rewrote the book. We rewrote the book. We used AI to help us write the book, and complete confusion. The book is there in about 5 different versions, and it's just there. And I think I don't know which version is the right version, and if it should be looked at again or published or just given to a ghostwriter to rewrite it again, or just leave it. So it's there. And I think Stephen helped me start up another chapter, and maybe that's the 6th version. So my question here is, what happens when someone really goes down that rabbit hole and they get really confused because they're writing it and they're getting different versions, and what happens? What would you suggest?
Okay, so first of all, I want to say not all ghostwriters will understand where you're coming from, and not all ghostwriters will work with you, because you need someone that understands the goal you're trying to achieve. Not everyone understands, and not everyone can bring your ideas to life. So you need someone. That's why it's good to have a one-on-one conversation with most of the ghostwriters before you go in and say, you know what, I want you to write my book. So with what you've done now, that you have like 6 versions, you don't want to write a book that's not in your voice, that doesn't sound like you, that isn't, you're just so different. Maybe you're reading it and it feels strange, like I wouldn't say this, or I wouldn't, So I think it's important for you to communicate with some ghostwriters that you feel like could help you out with that. If you believe you guys understand each other, then they can read it over again and tell you what they want to take out. You can also tell them what you want to add in there. So that way you guys are communicating, collaborating. Because one of the goals as a ghostwriter is not just to write. I don't want to write something my client won't like, or what my client will say, this doesn't sound like me. So we are trying to ask you questions. How do you want this book to sound? Who are you talking to? What are the words you think we should change from here? So if I understand all that, I know what I'm doing. I'm probably taking out some sections and adding something else, or changing some words and all of that. So it's more of editing that you need right now, not really writing.
So is the book, I mean, if I've understood correctly here, we're editing it or modifying it to the audience, or is it the book that should be in line with the past? Because we were talking before about actually priming the market or the audience or the client to who you are. And so when you come out with the book, it's authentic, right?
Yeah.
So now the book, the six versions I have are all different versions of me, but they're all mixed up now completely. So is it a case of going back and looking at who I am and or is it just looking at the book and saying, what does the market want?
No, what do you want? You have a goal when you were writing that book. Yeah, it was for your kids at first, but when you published it, what was the goal? What did you want your audience to feel when you did that? So you have to ask yourself that question. So we're not just writing for the audience blindly. We know, okay, this is how I want them to feel. So when I'm sending it to them, I'm expecting a reaction, a certain kind of reaction from them, right? It's just like writing a sales copy and you're putting it out there because this is what clients want. But what do you want them to do after reading it? You want them to change an attitude? You want, so it's left to you to communicate it clearly to whoever is editing it for you. This is how you want this book to sound. This is what you want audiences to take, readers to take away from this book after reading it. So they can review it and, review the whole thing and edit it for you.
So there was another thing as well. Perhaps could you tell us, talk us through like planning how to write a book? And I think a lot of people, myself, I just say a lot of people, myself, just jumped into, I had some ideas, put it down and just start writing. And is there a way that someone could go through planning to write a book, introduction, conclusion, how many chapters, how many words per chapter, what's the average? Yeah, I mean, David, what about you? I mean, did you go through the introduction and how many, did you plan it?
Yeah, several times. And I thought, well, the best thing to do, I'm going to just write down what I want to talk about for a chapter. And I did all of them separately. Then I figured out how I want to arrange it. And some things were duplicates, so I had to figure out how I really wanted to have that read and things like that. So yeah, I went through the same process you're going through, the same one. And I guess it worked out.
Did you I mean, I think Joy was also talking about some sort of call to action. What do you want the reader to take away after reading your book? Did you have that thought behind your writing as well as you were going through the chapters? What's the call to action, or what do I want?
I had that the whole time. I had that really before I had how I wanted it written.
Okay.
Because the book itself is really geared toward millennials and younger.
Okay.
Because people like me and my age set, they're not going to change the way they work. But millennials and younger don't want that for their families. They want better equity and pay and benefits. They want better work-life balance. They want so much more, which I think they deserve.
Yeah.
And so I didn't write this for baby boomers like me. I wrote it for the people who I see as developing new companies. They're starting new companies. They're doing things on their own. They've seen the destruction of their own families by people who work with bad bosses, and the mother and father always fighting at each other over money and things like that.
So how
They
did
don't
you
want that.
how did you divide the book? I mean, did you sort of say I'm going to have 10 chapters or 12 chapters? Was there some sort of like a flow from to the book to take them to the conclusion
Yes.
at the end? Yeah.
Yes. And I thought, so when I was thinking about, one of my chapters is, can a cat teach us about leadership? And at the top of the page, I had a picture of a big cat with his legs crunched into a little cardboard box. And part of the thinking there is that cat did not tell himself that he cannot fit in that box. That cat said, I can fit in that box. And the whole, we have cats, so I think like a cat. And a cat's mindset, they don't tell themselves they can't do something. They just go and do it and try to find a way to do it. And a lot of times, young people working for a horrible boss, they have to be concerned because if they make their own decisions, the boss get mad at them, they'll get in trouble. The boss wants to make all the decisions. If the boss is in a meeting, you can't make the decision. So what happens? They play. And the projects are always behind schedule. But the C-suite guys, when they call in, the boss asks, how come the project's late? The boss says, well, my employees didn't get the job done. Well, make sure your employees do better next time. Okay. And the vicious circle goes. Yet
So
C-suite never goes out to see what's going on.
What was the takeaway from that chapter that you wrote? Can a cat teach us about leadership? What was the takeaway? What were you trying to do? What was the point that you were trying to get across there?
Leadership can come from any unexpected place. It can come from watching animals. It can come from the warehouse guys. It can come from the guys in manufacturing. It can come from engineering. Leadership can come from anywhere.
You mean the action? You mean the action leadership? Or
yes.
You're talking about the person as a leader. You're talking about the action.
Yes. Yes. People have a choice. They can either be bossed, they can be the boss, or they can actually lead. There's a difference in all of those things. Yeah. And the leader is the one that inspires other people to work. But people, let's take the average employee. The average employee is out there working for the boss, and they talk to each other, even though management sometimes wishes they wouldn't, but they do. And so they know what's going on. And if let's take a manufacturing environment. In a manufacturing environment, a company does not get paid until that product gets delivered to the customer. And that customer may have a 30, 60, or 90-day pay account with the company. Okay? So if it's not shipped on time, is the customer going to be happy? No. Is the customer going to pay? No. So it's important that that guy running that forklift gets everything loaded on the truck. But before he can get everything loaded on a truck, it's got to go through QA, it's got to be made, it's got to be engineered, and it's got to be marketed. And so throughout the entire process, everybody is important. Not just the C-suite, not just this boss or that boss. And the people that are working on, let's take a forklift driver. Can leadership come from a forklift driver? Yes. Because they decide how they're going to work. They might see something that's really stupid that causes delays, and they might find a way to fix it. And it's the same thing all the way up and down inside a company.
So the point is, leadership can be found in any part of a process. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think we've lost Joy here. I don't know. I think she's probably got some internet connection problems here. Yeah. Steven's put something in the chat regarding.
Right. I just made you a new cat chart for your next meeting. I don't know. It's interesting that there's
All right.
there's a disconnect that happens when we see pictures of animals or things like that. It removes that bias of some of the times that we've thought of things. I wanted to ask Joy the question. Maybe you guys could answer this. There's a couple of things that come to mind. So one is how do we separate branding from like our individual projects? So we may be launching a book or something might be going on. So what's the difference between branding and the current project or the current thing that we're working on? And then, yeah, so let's just talk about that one first.
I think branding, Steve, is something that you are recognized as. It's like something, when we say personal branding, the way you are, the way you show up, the way you are in most situations. That's, unless you're emotionally unstable and then you're up and down and people just don't know who you are. There are some people you might find them at the football stadium and they're going crazy, and then you see them at work and they're all like proper, and you think, is that the same person? I mean, who is the person? Who is Steve? The person at the stadium or the person in the office, or someone at home is very calm, and then outside on the street they're driving their car, they're losing it, they're shouting out their window. So that kind of I think I mean, branding for me is something that comes across when you take away all the fluff. Who is that person in all those different situations? That's where I think personal brand is, who you are.
I appreciate that. It looks like Joy's back, but she's frozen.
Yeah.
I don't know if she is
Joy,
here.
you back, Joy? Joy. No.
It might be.
Yeah, I'm back.
Oh, you are.
I'm so.
Are you back?
My network has been bad. I don't know what. Yeah, I'm back now.
So the
Can you hear
question
me
that I had was, how do we separate, what is the difference between personal branding and maybe the focus upon a current project? So let's say that we have a book coming out. How do we establish a personal brand where this book can be a component or a personal project of that, but then we're building upon that, because we may have another book come out, or we may have another project come out, or a training, whatever we might do, because we're building layers upon layers and supporting that brand. So what's the difference between branding and maybe a highlight or a marketing of a current focused project?
Yeah, so it's just like content pillars, right? If you want to create a content pillar, like that's telling you what you want, what kind of content you want to drop in, because then people run out of content, right? What do I talk about today? But the main thing you want to tell your audience is all about marketing. You want to educate your clients, your readers about marketing. Now you're going to break it down into different sections, and you're just explaining it to them, different parts of marketing today, processes of marketing and all of that. So everything still boils down to marketing in the end. You're not going out of the normal character, because that's what you know how to do best. So in selling your book, or maybe any project, or writing a book, the most important thing is that people know you as somebody they can trust. That's what personal branding does for you. It's just like creating a persona on online. So whatever project you're dropping, people can go back to it and say, oh, this is the person that wrote it, and this is what he talks about normally. So it's not really restricting you from doing other projects or writing a book. You don't always have to create a new persona if you're writing a new book. It's just that people they just know you as somebody they can trust. You're creating a character, something people can look back on and say, okay, this is what he does. Like track record. So that's it. It's not like it's really different. Once you have a character, people know you as this. When you're dropping a project, they can trust you. They know you, okay, this is Steve writing this book. It's not like you have to have two different characters. I don't know if that answers your question.
So if you want to come out with a new project that's completely different from your personal brand, or the way people see you, or your authenticity, or the way how do you approach the market there when you want to come with a completely different, you want to shock the market?
Yeah, so that's why when you have your audience already, you always have time to explain to them, this project is coming out today. This is what we're going to talk about. It's quite different from what I do normally. Just like artists come online and maybe they are used to Afrobeats, and then they're singing something way different, R&B. But it's just you explaining it to them, bringing it out to them. And marketing works like that. There's always going to be a strategy. We're going to, that's a whole ball game, but it's just having a strategy around it. It doesn't still change the fact that you are Steve. You know, it's just you exploring a different path. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if that answered this question.
Yeah. David, you got a question? David?
Yeah, that's a good explanation for me. I'm from Texas. And, you know, personal branding for us has a whole different meaning. I thought I was going to have to cut out my left back pocket or something. Sorry, it's a cowboy term.
We don't have cowboys in Italy.
Ah, they have their own personal branding too, huh?
No, it was like, you know, when you talk about personal branding, it seems like it's some sort of like an avenue or something that you have to be. That's the way you have to be authentic. But you rightly said, if you want to approach the market with a new perception, a new insight that you've got, you can inform your audience or your followers. You're about to change tact and go in a different direction. Yeah, I think so.
I wanted to ask a question in here. So as you're establishing your personal brand, right? Because we have to make choices about what different things that we create, what different things that we pursue. And so the goal would be to actually support and establish that brand. So what's the process of actually creating and establishing a brand? What are the questions you ask yourself? What are the projects that you might choose to support that? You know, how do we actually establish and create a brand?
Brand.
And then also with that is, how do we know whether our brand is valid or whether we want to rebrand?
Rebranding is very, I think one thing about personal branding is that it doesn't restrict you from realizing, oh, I don't think this is me anymore, or this is not what I want to go through. Then you can always go back and say, you know what, we're rebranding. I mean, products do that. Some drinks that we used to have before, they decided to change the packaging because they just felt it wasn't delivering how it was. And some were actually successful. So it's not like it restricts you from being you. Human beings are not meant to stay in one place forever. You know, we're not meant to be the same, you evolve. So as you're evolving, obviously your audience too would have to grow with you. That's the beauty of personal branding. You know, you're not being stagnant just to say, oh, this is what I do and I can't change. You can choose to change, and then some audience will drop down because they're like, okay, I'm not following up with this, but new ones will come in. So building a personal brand is just, you know, at this stage of my life, let's say I'm in my 20s now and I'm so excited about storytelling, I will talk about storytelling the way I understand it at this phase of my life. And then maybe in my 30s, I realize, oh, I have a deeper knowledge of this right now and I don't want to address it this way anymore. It will just move. I will just change. And then people would notice it because they know me as someone, and then there'll be questions. And then that's where I create like maybe a post one day and I'm talking about it, about how, you know, how life evolves and this is how I want to address it now. And the normal thing is that people that don't identify with that anymore, maybe your content won't resonate with them, they'll just leave maybe after, then new ones will come in. You lose to gain most times, you know, so it doesn't really change anything. You can always rebrand when you decide that, okay, this is not serving me anymore. And that's just growth. If you're working with a team of creators and all of that, they always have to think ahead. In the next 5 years, this wouldn't work for us anymore. So what are we going to change to? So it's fine to rebrand. You don't always have to do the same thing to the end.
Yeah. So talking about storytelling now, as we're coming to the end of this webinar, very interesting, about before diving into a book, priming the audience, priming your followers and so on. Next week, we're going to be talking about storytelling. So I've got a guest speaker, co-host called Anthony Tazgal. We can call him Taz. He said you can call me Taz. We'd have to say it. And he's a TED speaker. He's an author. He's written a book called The Consumer Behavior Book. He's done lots of things. He's a lecturer, a strategist, etc., etc. So he's going to come along next week. We've already actually had a webinar on storytelling, but I think it's really good anyway, you know, to hone our skills on the ability to storytell, because I think personal branding is our personal story, is who we are. So as you know, as Steve was bringing up, you know, the difference between personal branding and personal projects, I think it's just the authenticity that you have that you bring into your communication, into your book, into your podcast, or whatever. And and even when you're interviewed, I mean, me personally as well, I've been interviewed a few times, and the person said, "What would you like to talk about?" And I said, "Well, I don't want to prepare. I just want to come along, and then you ask me any questions, because I will only tell you what I know." And so whether it's about the family, if it's about work, whether it's difficulties, whether it's about discrimination, racism, the UK, Italy, whatever, I said, I'll just answer what I know. And so I think that's also some sort of personal branding, because you don't come prepared with answers that are not you, which sometimes happens when you prepare a speech or whatever. You come along and you try to convince the audience of something maybe that you're not convinced about yourself. So I think just being authentic and just being yourself, well, one of the pillars of public speaking, for example.
Yeah.
So anyway, so next week we're going to have the storyteller. So if you're around and you want to come along, come along and share and join in and ask questions to the guest speaker, Anthony Tasgal.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say something that I know we are late already, but about storytelling, it's just beautiful how people resonate in different ways. You know, I want to make an example of a church. We have so many churches, but we choose to go to a particular one, probably because the first day we entered there and they talked about salvation. He talked about it from the perspective of him being a smoker and how God saved his life. And probably I'm a smoker, and he's saying that I kind of connect with the way he says it. That's what storytelling does, personal story. I'm not faking it. I'm telling you how I felt. So you saying that makes me feel more safe, like you would understand how to address my problems. So that's just how storytelling works. Connects brands together.
Yeah, definitely. I think you can resonate. You can, the souls touch. You touch each other because you're saying something that's coming from deep within, and you haven't prepared it, and you're willing to actually be vulnerable. I think that's the word. You're being vulnerable, because when you show up like that, you don't know what questions are going to be asked, and so I think the audience resonate with that. They can feel that. So, Stephen, thank you. David, thank you. Dana Powell, thank you for turning up, and she's jumped off as well. And you, Joy, for all your insights before diving into a book. Prepare the audience, the market, your personal branding, and your social media too. So thank you very much, and hopefully you spend an enjoyable hour together. And we'll see each other next week on the storytelling episode. This is recorded, and so you'll find a copy of this on the YouTube channel, and I'll send you a copy as well, Joy.
So, all right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I had a very beautiful time here.
Okay, and connect up with Joy on LinkedIn if you can. So, and Joy, you can connect with everyone else as well.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.